From the Ticats Audio Network, this is Ticats Today with Steve Milton.
It's Wednesday, May 8th. This is Ticats Today, and I'm Steve Milton, standing in the press box at a dangerously windy Ron Joyce Stadium on the McMaster campus, where rookies have just finished their first on-field workouts. Today, we're talking about the Ticats Wall of Honour and the great Bernie Custis. Bernie Custis, the humorist, raconteur, loyal friend, prince of kindness, legendary coach, committed educator, and groundbreaking quarterback, was possessed of an unshakable belief in the fundamental goodness of mankind and the resilience of the human spirit. And he used all of that raw material as tools to construct relationships and help young men and women find their way in life. If this isn't the personification of building, I'm at a loss to say what is. On Wednesday morning, the Tiger Cats Alumni Association announced the selection of Bernie Custis as just the third person to be inducted onto the Ticats Wall of Honour as, of course, a builder. Mike Walker will join him there as a player. Custis' friend Jason Riley, the former All-Star Ticat lineman and himself an educator, recalls being at Teachers College in the mid-1980s and receiving an assignment on team culture. He and Custis had first met a couple of years earlier on the Canadian University Football Award stage when Riley was accepting his All-Canadian honors and Custis was named Coach of the Year for an undefeated MAC season. Riley went on to say, and this is a quote, "I went to him about the project because I knew he'd coached Sheridan, the Burlington Braves, and MAC, and that he was a high school principal. He invited me to his wife's and his house in Burlington, and we talked for 3 hours about how he believed, and I concur, that football is the best sport on the planet for adolescent young men to learn everything they need to be successful in life. He was a pure advocate of that." The end of the quote. As an example, Custis told Riley about a young player he coached who'd been a bully all of his life, and none of the players or coaches wanted him on their team. But from his experiences in schools, Custis knew there had to be a reason for a kid becoming a bully, so he kept him on the team, and despite setbacks, at the end of the year, he named that bully the team's most improved player. The one-time bully started crying right in front of his teammates, who in turn gave him a unanimous standing ovation. Now that's building. As a builder on the wall, right across the street from the high school named for him, Custis will join Ralph Sazio and Jake Gadar, who were his teammates, when Custis came north in 1951 from Syracuse, where he'd starred in being the roommate and eventually lifelong friend of future Oakland Raiders owner Al Davis. As a builder on the wall, right across the street from the high school named for him, Custis will join Ralph Sazio and Jake Gadar, who were his teammates when Custis came north in 1951 from Syracuse, where he'd starred and been the roommate and eventually lifelong friend of future Oakland Raiders owner Al Davis. Custis wore black and gold for only 4 years. However, what a 4 years it was. There had been a few other black quarterbacks in pro ball by then, but by the late 1940s, the professional game on both sides of the border had settled into virtual apartheid under center. African Americans need not apply. The Cleveland Browns had drafted Custis 5th overall in 1951, but they wanted him to play safety, not quarterback, which he'd become in his third year at Syracuse and learned to love it. Legendary Browns owner Paul Brown sympathized with that and said that if Custis wanted to be a quarterback, he'd only release him to a Canadian team. So Custis chose Hamilton because it was the closest, even though he was not familiar with the city or of the Tiger Cats. On August 29th of that year, he became the regular starter, breaking what was essentially a North American color bar at that position. And much of that came because the fans were wowed by his first game and pressured management heavily to start him at quarterback. He was a Big Four. That's the predecessor to the CFL East All-Star, and those same fans voted him the most popular Tiger Cat that season and again in 1954. But Coach Carl Voiles moved him to halfback the following year in what Custis told me several times off the record was an act of racial prejudice. Custis preferred to keep those feelings quiet, but did say when the Ticats honored his color bar breaking achievement in 2011, this is quote, "I wasn't a pioneer, but I did help pave the way." And of course, he made the All-Star team in 1954 at halfback. In 1955, a severe Charlie horse was medically mishandled, so Voiles traded him to Montreal, and at 26, his playing career was soon done. So Custis went into education in the Hamilton-Burlington area for 35 years and also became one of the most successful coaches in the history of Canadian amateur football. There was virtually no level of the game he didn't affect. He coached East York and Argo's senior farm team, won a couple of senior titles in 4 years running the Oakville Black Knights, was the face of the Burlington Braves, coaching them from 1964 to 72 with 3 Ontario junior titles and 2 Eastern Canadian crowns, won the Provincial Community College Championship 6 times in his 8 years at the helm of Sheridan Bruins, and took the McMaster Marauders from 7th to 1st in his inaugural year of an 8-year stint there. He also scouted for Mike McCarthy, who was on the selection committee for the Wall of Fame when Mike was the GM of the Argos, and also during his second tenure with the Ticats. There was nothing in local football that Custis left untouched, which helped create a gridiron, favorable environment in this area that helped expand interest in the sport among players, fans, coaches, and officials, which in turn was beneficial to the Ticats. The main thing about Bernie is that he was always a gentleman, says McCarthy, who was on that committee, as I mentioned, and helped break the news to Bernie's relatives that he had made the wall. A sweetheart of a man. McCarthy remembers Custis and Ron Lancaster watching practices together, then, as part of their daily ritual, adjourning to neighboring coffee shops for more of a gab fest. And Riley had a similar experience. He says, in quotes, Bernie Custis, Ange Mosca, Ron Lancaster, and Ellison Kelly. 4 bastions of Hamilton lore. They'd all be sitting there in old chairs by the tunnel at Ivor Wynn where the players came out. They'd be giving us encouragement and maybe a tip here and there. That's where I first really got to know Bernie and how much of a gentleman he was, end quote. Personally, I spent hours with Custis and Lancaster as I covered practices for The Spectator in those days from that very same spot. The two of them slapping each other on the knee like they were each the funniest guy on earth. And they'd often make me or other outsiders who were there the butt of their jokes. I used to call them Statler and Hilton, like the 2 Muppet Show balcony critics. Now, after Custis died in 2017 at the age of 88, his memorial at the Burlington Performing Arts Center lasted far longer than most because so many friends and former players had been touched by him and wanted to speak their piece. Here are some of the quotes that they said that day. Reverend Tim Graham. Bernie feasted on life, then graciously shared his table with everyone. Hall of Famer Tony Gabriel, whom Custis coached in junior ball and helped send to Syracuse. He was a gentleman. I don't even remember him once getting mad on the sidelines. CFL Commissioner Jeffrey Orridge thanked the Custis family on behalf of his own family and said this: he believed that it was not the color of your skin, but the thickness of it. And many players remembered Bernie's go-to game advice, especially in tough situations. Gentlemen, show poise. This week, Mike McCarthy added, the accolades for him were unbelievable. Sometimes you do not have the words to describe Bernie Custis. One of those words would definitely be builder. This has been Ticats Today, and thanks once again for joining us. Tune in tomorrow when we talk about the Tiger Cats rookie camp. Speaking of which, the Tiger Cats added 8 new players today. 6 are Americans. Receiver TJ Vasher, defensive back Mark Milton, gotta love that one. Tight end Cameron McDonald, linebacker Marvin Pierre, defensive lineman Vonnie Watkins and Marie Smith, and also 2 nationals joined the camp. Receiver Kane Stevenson and defensive back Frederick Sir. For Ticats Today, I'm Steve Milton.
This has been Ticats Today with Steve Milton. Catch it on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere else you get your podcasts.